Hello everybody, John Chikatwell back here again with another video, and today I bring you another DBZ movie review, a part of my 12 days of Dragon Ball Z, which originally was supposed to be 14 days, but what are you going to do? Nonetheless, I'm here to give you another review, a part of the Dragon Ball Z series, the movie series, if you will, and today I give you my review for the 10th DBZ animated feature, which is titled Dragon Ball Z Broly Second Coming, which is, of course, the direct sequel to the Broly, the Legendary Super Saiyan, which I did a review for, so please go check out that on my channel. Nonetheless, using the timeline placement and the various characters that are featured in this movie, basically we can pretty much guess that this movie takes place inside the Buu Saga, right before shit went down. Goku's obviously still dead. He hasn't come down. We get the first appearance of three characters that I personally actually really like. I know a lot of people are like, those characters suck, they're the worst additions to DBZ or what have you, but I personally like them, and that is, of course, the first introduction to Videl, and, of course, the first introduction in the movies for Goten and Kid Trunks. And I know a lot of people hate Goten and Kid Trunks. A lot of people find them useless, and they kids with tons of potential, but never really amounted to anything. But for me personally, I thought there were interesting additions. They weren't my favorite characters from the series, looking back at it in perspective, but I still liked them nonetheless. And of course, Broly's back, which is awesome. We get, of course, Broly is the legendary Super Saiyan, and prior to the events of this movie, basically, Broly somehow, illogically, if you will, because if we all know from the ending, spoilers, the ending of Legendary Super, the first film, basically Goku defeated Broly and pretty much demolished his torso, pretty much, and the last shot is basically him exploding as the comet destroys New Vegeta. But in this movie, it's implied that Broly escaped the destruction of New Planet Vegeta with a Saiyan pod, which doesn't make sense because, if I'm not mistaken, Broly actually implies in the first movie that the Saiyan pod that his father was in, Paragus, spoilers, was the only actual space pod in the actual planet, if I'm not mistaken. It's just implied. It's not. It doesn't mean that there wasn't any others. I don't fucking know. But nonetheless, I'm pretty sure that Paragus' space pod that Broly destroyed with him in it, which was pretty hardcore, was the only space pod. But nonetheless, Broly escapes the destruction, crash lands on Earth somehow, because Broly never went to Earth, so I find it difficult that he would know where Earth is, but I guess there's, we don't know. Space pod technology, we don't fucking know. Nonetheless, he crash lands on Earth and barely escapes with his life. He passes out, goes into a coma, and within the crater that he crash lands on, basically freezes up for 7 years. So he's basically like Captain America, where Broly is essentially Steve Rogers, and he's stuck in a block of ice for 7 years in a coma, essentially, because of the massive, hit that he took from not only escaping the destruction of that planet, but of course landing basically on his head, I guess. Nonetheless, getting into this movie, 7 years later, taking place within the Buu Saga, Goten, Trunks, Videl, and Gohan are out searching for the Dragon Balls for just a quick little adventure, which I don't really know why they were doing it in the first place. I think they implied, or gave their reasoning within the movie, but I can't really remember. The memory is escaping me at the moment, but I know they were searching for the Dragon Balls. I just can't remember what their purpose was for achieving the Dragon Balls. I mean, I don't know what they were going to wish for. Nonetheless, they're all out in their little adventures. Goten, Trunks, with the help of Videl, pretty much leaving Gohan to go do his own thing, basically come across this village that is being tormented by a supposed monster, and the supposed monster is basically a dinosaur, which, from the looks of it, wasn't really that destructive. I find it kind of ironic that this village was so tormented by this supposed monster, and it was just like this short dinosaur that Goten could have took down very easily. But at the end of the day, Goten from some point in this movie, begins to cry, and his cries are so loud and so reminiscent of Goku that Broly awakens from his coma, breaks free of his ice prison, if you will, and basically goes to the village to destroy Goten and Kid Trunks. And that's where our movie begins, with the amazing action that is Dragon Ball Z all the time. Fucking awesome. Broly takes on Super Saiyan Goten and Kid Trunks. And I actually forgot to mention this in my Legendary Super Saiyan review, that Broly's Super Saiyan form is 180 from his Super Saiyan form here. And a lot of people kind of ask themselves, like, why is that? Like, why, for the, like, non-hardcore DBZ fans, why is Broly Super Saiyan blue, or bluish purple, turquoise, in the first movie, but in the second movie, he's an average-looking Super Saiyan? Well, the reasoning behind that is that in the first movie, I forgot to mention this is so stupid, but I forgot to mention it. Paragus created this mind control device that he attached to Broly when he was younger, which he uses to control the mind of Broly. And that's essentially what he does, in the only way that he actually is capable of using Broly to his advantage, which, realistically, doesn't really work out at the end, because, of course, Broly breaks free of this mind control and, of course, destroys it and becomes a legendary Super Saiyan that we all freaking know and enjoy to watch. But nonetheless, that's why his Super Saiyan form was so different looking in design in comparison to how he looks in this movie. Nonetheless, Broly is obviously far superior in comparison to all these other characters. He's kicking Goten's ass, kicking Kid Trunks' ass, which I actually admire as to how far they were able to achieve, staying on par with Broly, which I thought was kind of weird. Of course, they didn't fuse, so I'm thinking this is obviously prior to the events of the Fusion Saga, and obviously Goku's dead, so this is definitely before the events of the Fusion Saga. Nonetheless, there's no Gotenks in this movie. At the end of the day, Goten, Trunks, with the help of Gohan coming in, really cannot take down Broly. Of course, he transforms into Legendary Super Saiyan. Gohan transforms to Super Saiyan 2, which a lot of people like to debate about as to whether or not Gohan was a Super Saiyan 2 within this movie. Personally, I think he was. I don't think it necessarily means that he has to be looking the way he did in the series, technically, to be a Super Saiyan 2. He was a Super Saiyan 2, that's my belief. What do you personally think? Was Gohan a Super Saiyan 2 in Broly the Second Coming? Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. But of course, Broly and Gohan go out in a full-on brawl, which is, hands down, one of the best fights that Gohan pretty much has in all these movies. Like, Gohan, looking at it in perspective, he never really had an epic, badass battle. I think the only real times he had an amazing fight within the movies has to be in BoJack Unbound, and I think that's it. Like, he didn't really have that many. I mean, like, he got a good couple shots in prior movies, but not to the full extent of, like, he was dominating or on par with the character. Like, Broly, the first movie, he was obviously being dominated. Super Android 13, he really didn't do anything. Same thing about Return of Cooler and Cooler's Revenge, Lord Slug, Tree of Might, The World's Strongest, well, kind of a little bit in World's Strongest, and Dead Zone, but pretty much this is the first time where he's had, like, a legitimate physical fight with a character, specifically the main antagonist, which is awesome for him. Like, he's fucking kicking ass, he's fucking desperately trying to fight him, and I just love how they animated the whole thing. It just looked amazing. Although I wasn't big on the transformation sequence for Broly, I think they just rehashed animation stills from the first movie into this second movie, which I didn't really dig it. Of course, you see a few differences, but overall, it's like the same cells, it's like the same stills, just done again, which I thought was weird. But nonetheless, the movie continues to go on. Obviously, they're completely inferior in comparison to Broly. Krillin does a little cameo here, wearing Piccolo's uniform, which was pretty hysterical. I think that's the first time we actually see Krillin in Piccolo's uniform. Nonetheless, Gohan and Goten use a combined Kamehameha wave blast towards Broly, who uses this awesome, big, gigantic, energy spear, and they're completely on not on par with his spear. So of course, Goten using the Dragon Balls, which was kind of weird. I don't really know what was going on there. It was like the weird. It's pretty much the weirdest wish that's ever happened on screen for a Dragon Ball Z movie. But essentially, Goten wishes for his father to appear and help them in the conflict. Goku comes in, helps out with the Kamehameha wave, giving us the first ever family three-way, if you will, a Kamehameha wave, which looks beautiful. It would look so badass to have those three characters in the same spot, giving us one gigantic Kamehameha wave. But of course, still, even with Goku, it's still no match for his spear. But with the help of Kid Trunks, which I thought was kind of weird, they're able to deflect get through the spear, and of course démolish Broly and just obliterate him and just send him right to hell where he deserves to be, or at least until the third movie, because Broly's a fucking awesome villain that lots of people loved. A lot of people say overrated, but I say I thought he was cool. They brought him again for a third movie. So this is the end of the battle, but not the end of the war, if you will. But nonetheless, of course, the day is saved. Gohan and Goten save the Earth by destroying Broly for the second time in his history. And of course, they debate and speculate amongst themselves as to whether or not Goku is really there with them, because Goku's not, anywhere to be seen. So that was the only real cameo by Goku, which I always thought was weird. But let me know what you personally think. Was Goku there? Was he personally, physically there at the conflict? First off, it doesn't make any sense for him to actually be there, because for one, it wasn't a legitimate wish that Goten did. The dragons didn't appear, didn't ask for a wish, the sky didn't turn colors or what have you, lightning did not strike, the Dragon Balls didn't really do anything. So was Goku actually there, or was it just a figment of their imagination? Let me know what you personally think about that in the comment section below. And of course, the ending is always going to be comedic, of course, with Videl chasing over Gohan into Goten and Trunks' hysterical dismay. Nonetheless, I think Second Coming, and I think I mentioned this in my Legendary review, that I think it's a very underrated movie in the Broly trilogy, as most people like to call it. I personally don't think it's as bad as people think like to perceive it to be. I personally think it's definitely not on par with the first movie, and Bio Broly's not really that good either. Although I got a comment that was pretty hysterical about stating that Bio Broly was at least good because it didn't take itself seriously, which, if that's your opinion, then okay, sure. I mean, I don't know if I would say that's my opinion, but I like them all. Let's be honest, I'm a hardcore DBZ bitch. I fucking love Dragon Ball Z. Even the shittiest movies I'm gonna like. It's not like I'm gonna sit here and bash them. There obviously be aspects that I dislike or don't really care for, but that doesn't mean I, distinctly hate a DBZ movie. And this movie, obviously, a lot of people don't really like in comparison to Legendary Broly. A lot of people say that after Legendary Broly, they should have never really gave him sequels, because they ruined his character with the following sequels. But for me personally, I like this movie. I think it's very underrated. The animation's good. It has a very limited cast, of course. We only get to see one cameo from Goku, Gohan as the main hero, Goten and Kid Trunks, which we see majority of the movie, and Videl, and a little cameo by Krillin, Broly, and, the villagers, and that's pretty much it. It's not really that extensive of a cast, so it's not really something that I think is appropriate to bash, because we got some characters that we enjoy, and we got to see them do what they do. And of course, I always enjoy the music. The music is, of course, pretty badass. Once again, Funimation gives us a soundtrack that's not the Japanese soundtrack. I know I've been bitching about that for the majority of all these DBZ movie reviews, but it's true. I personally prefer an American soundtrack over a Japanese soundtrack any day of the week. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, I have to give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. It's a good movie, not an amazing movie, and it's definitely inferior to the first movie. I love the first movie. Some people say it's overrated. I personally love it. This movie, Not really on par, but still pretty good. I like it. The animation's good. The music's awesome. The characters are awesome. Gohan versus Broly was an amazing fight. Definitely his best fight in the movies. The triple Kamehameha wave, badass. Kid Trunks' comedic moments in the movie, like pissing on Broly and all that shit, was hysterical. So I love it. I think it's a pretty decent, good flick. So let me know what you personally think about it in the comments section below. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. And of course, this is not the true end of Broly. And I'll get to that in my Bio Broly review. Nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been John 12.